Hi, welcome. On this video, as part of my next series moving forward, dovetailing from my other series by way of Rumble, responding to the video where Anthony Daughtry talked about the core ingredients, influence and control, what that means to him through a process. And going into this next video here, where again, finally having a little bit of time to sit down and respond to some of this. And again, answering again where he kept going on, tagging me, saying, "Well, you never responded to the video where he answers the question of the century, as I call it. What is the criteria these trainers, including the anti-dog trainer, are using to establish that the perceptions of dogs are changed in the right way within the framework of response by way again of their approach." Again, I talk about, I did a whole series of videos talking about the core ingredients, influence, and control. And that really goes into this whole answering the question of the century. Because, the only way to respond to the answer to the question of the century is the fact that you're aligned properly to begin with. Okay, so if you're following a different approach, a different path, well, the focus shifts to appearances. Okay, because the picture that's being generated is not going to be the picture change I'm talking about, okay? Because the only way for those core ingredients to be reconciled properly at the social level in terms of the right conversation is a intentional interaction-based approach. Okay, so you hear the anti-dog trainer talking about certain relationship dynamics, a lot of superficial, a lot of generalized language. I talk about that in the last breakdown series. I'm going to play some of it anyway, and again, continue to see if he says anything different. Okay, which again, you've already basically gone through a lot what he has to say, but this is specific to him asking, well, did I actually watch the video? Well, here we go. And so I'll do at least a couple parts here probably, and respond to what he has to say.
Really appreciate everybody joining. Just waiting for people to show up. Happy Halloween. We are definitely
done about 3 weeks ago. Yeah.
Caught up on work. Just need to get some cleaning done. And then got some jujitsu later, and then we're just going to relax. We're going to play some Resident Evil 4 later. For anybody who's a gamer. Dale, if you're watching, good morning. Happy Halloween. We're here to answer that question that nobody can answer. Nobody's done it. We're breaking history. We're making and breaking history here.
Well, trust me, history isn't being broken, okay? Okay? I mean, history being broken. In fact, if you go, I posted a video up the top there where dog sense training out of Australia, she tried to answer that question. And it's kind of an incoherent, response. She attempts it, but again, understand that it's specific to, okay, a process. Okay, if you're if you're hardwired into a different idea of things, you can't respond to it anyway. I mean, that's the whole point of everything, is to say, here's the source of the problem in the dog training world by way of how trainers are jumping into a relationship problem. That's why people ask, well, how is it that, I just have to watch a few minutes of a video before coming to a conclusion, because it's how those core ingredients come together at the beginning. It's like having a conversation. It all starts at the beginning. So it's very specific. There's no kind of wiggle room here. It's how they, it's the right conversation, okay, by way of a specific intentional interaction-based approach. Okay, it's going to provide the right information, as well as in terms of entering into a power play, right, conversation with dog understanding intent. All the themes I talk about all aligning together. Okay, so it's just like, when you're making, say, I make bread. Okay, so I make a jalapeno cheese bread I use for my sandwiches every week. But there's certain core ingredients. Okay, so it's like you're adding the water there's sugar, there's olive oil, there's salt, okay? Then there's the flour that goes in. Then there's the jalapenos. Then there's the cheese. Then there's the yeast to activate all of it. But it's very specific. So when I talk about ingredients, I talk about process. If those ingredients, the main, especially the main, I talk about the main ingredient. In fact, I did a video talking about it, and you see me with my flour and everything out in the video, because I'm making a point. If the process is missing, those ingredients are not, they don't come together, they don't align, they don't they don't mix, in terms of their components, right? You're going to come out with a different result. Okay, it's not going to come together. It's going to be not a good outcome. Okay, not the way that it's intended. It's no different here. So it's a specific process. Those core ingredients I talk about, they blend in, a specific way to affect change by way of the dog's perceptions. Okay, so for him to say, well, we're going to make history, well, trust me, there's no history to be made here, okay? There's just going to be more confusion. If you watch the whole series of videos I did, answers it right there, that he can't answer the question because he's not dialed in the way I talk about. So his response to that question isn't anything about how it all comes together, right? I mean, it's not.
It's the question of the millennium, the aeon, the century, the generation. Any word you can think of. We're doing it on this happy Halloween. But what's interesting about this question is I've answered it before. But Dale likes to claim that I won't touch it.
So you didn't answer it. So Halloween, yeah, it's a trick. It's not a trick question, but it's a trick with how he tries to answer, right? It doesn't align, because the process he advocates doesn't align.
That nobody can touch it, and that I won't debate the real information, which is bullshit. So Dale, I hope you're watching, because we're going to answer that fucking question.
Answer it. Okay.
But if anybody's familiar with Dale's work, his question of the century, it's the only thing he's got that he thinks gives him a leg up, right, above everybody else. Because he says nobody can answer it.
Well, like I said, this is where it gets personal, right? Hey, it's not about it's about, right, what's the real problem in the dog training world. That's it. It's information based, right? So there's the trigger, right? All these trainers are getting all triggered.
But what's interesting about the question is it doesn't even apply to me, because I'm not a balanced or force-free dog trainer.
Sure, it applies to you.
But
it applies to everyone out there who engages in, right, training dogs, a process. He calls himself a, anti-dog trainer, right? But anyone who interacts, you can call yourself whatever you want, okay? But it comes down to specifics of a process. So it does apply to, it comes down to how those core ingredients reconcile. There it is. How are they reconciled through the process that you're advocating? You think somehow, this whole special category thing, say, I'm not a balanced trainer, I'm not a force-free trainer. When this whole thing with Ivan Belanoff, okay, you go watch. In fact, the videos are on my Rumble channel, and I encourage you to watch them. Okay, it was that whole censorship issue, okay, where I responded to the video that Ivan had put up. He was talking about, he was encouraging through his comment section, hey, anyone can respond to this. So I did a video response, and he initiated a copyright strike on YouTube. And it was information. I didn't get personal with Ivan. I didn't call him a jerk or anything like that. And it was funny. What makes it, kind of a special thing going on here with these trainers is that the same video that I responded to, Miracle Canine, David from Miracle Canine, used the exact same video, used a lot more of it. Okay, I talk about under fair usage, right? He used a lot more of it, but because he went along with a lot of what Ivan's saying, Ivan had no problem with that. The video's still up. Mine, copyright strike, and YouTube is very sensitive to even fair usage, right? They really lean on the side of just removing stuff anyway and not getting into anything like that. So they'll just, because the message I got from them basically said that, saying, listen, this is just how it works. And so I felt it was very unfair, right? But for Ivan to do that in the first place, I'm like, if you're confident in what you do, then should be fine with the information I'm putting out. Then my thing was respond to it. And so that's why even now, like being on Rumble, so even moving forward, if some of these trainers, right, who I kind of suspect that would do that type of thing, I'm going to put my videos on Rumble, because Rumble is a more of a free speech, anti-censorship platform, and still fall in fair usage. So it's not like me going and slandering anybody, right? They take what I say very personal based on the information, right? Because their identities are wrapped up into their system. But it's all to say here, it's the same thing here with responding. So again, the Ivan Velinov, you'll see, go look at the videos, the same thing. But for my point is to say that the anti-dog trainer is trying to say he's not in these groups of trainers, so he's different. No, he's not different. Okay. Because again, it goes to the same point I'm making as to how are those core ingredients reconciled. He can tie into this whole social thing with the person that he kind of looks up to, and Fouché, I think Brandon Fouché is that. I did a video on that, but it's about how the human ties into that. What does that really represent? Because the point here, you're even talking about dogs, leashes and choke chains don't belong with dogs and all. It's just foolish. Saying, well, no, it's a different type of social level of engagement in terms of interaction. Okay, to express at that social level with dogs. Okay, that way. Human, it's a separation there. It's not the same. Okay, so tying that stuff in, yeah, it's part of the connection. It's part to create change. It's still social, right? But it's all part of that. So understand that he tries to say, oh, I'm in some sort of special category. No, he's not. Okay, he may not toss treats around, but it's still about those core ingredients. How are they reconciled? That's what it comes down to.
His question, whoever liked the video, thank you. His question is, if I remember it, I've got it pulled up on my Facebook. I'm trying to remember it off the top of my head. It's, what criteria are balanced and force-free trainers using?
All trainers.
To determine whether or not a dog's perception has changed within the framework of response. I think I got that correct. Maybe there's one word in there that's incorrect, but pretty sure I got that correct. And so if you apply that to balanced and force-free trainers, the answer is there is none, right? But I'm not a balanced dog trainer and I'm not a force-free dog trainer.
What's the criteria? Doesn't matter. The criteria is influence and control, reconcile the way I described, to reveal, right? The perceptions of dogs, how you're perceived in the relationship. Okay, there it is. Okay, the interplay of those core ingredients reconcile that type of, I talk about that type of conversation, the interplay of that. That's what reveals. Okay, that's what establishes perceptions of dogs have changing in the current state of, based on intent being part of that too, in terms of how those interactions provide clarity with how they come together. Okay, so understand that I walk into a situation, right away I'm starting to bring those core ingredients together, right, to provide a proper assessment for the owner, okay? And then right from that, moving forward from there, it continues, those core ingredients continue to be reconciled through the actual interactions themselves, okay? So it all just aligns, okay? It all comes together, but it's a way, it's a type of, understand it's a type of conversation, okay? It's a way of interacting with. It's very specific, okay, how they come together.
I don't train dogs.
He's saying I don't train. So that's the thing that's ridiculous to me. Like, he's talking about he's the anti-dog trainer, doesn't train dogs. Like, what is that even supposed to mean? Okay. I said this before in another video. Because it was in the comments thing. I said there's nothing to do with qualifying as a dog trainer. But is he saying because he never? Are you saying that because he said about? Because he's calling his board and trains like babysitting dogs, and I said, what is he saying, baby? Oh, I'm not. I don't board dogs that way. And like what's he saying? It's almost like something weird here, like how he words things about what he does. And then I got asked the question, well, do you have like a business license, right? Because if you're making money as a business, you fall into a generalized category here in the city I'm in the county. You have to have a business license. They don't go in though when you go in to get. They don't say where's your credentials as a dog trainer. That's not established that way anyway. But you have to have just a basic business license. And he can answer this at any point. Like, is that why you call yourself, so that you don't have to declare income? Like, I don't know. Like, I'm just putting it out there. Like what are you saying? Like, it's just very confusing to me. So that's all. I'm not trying to get personal or make a cheap shot or anything. But what are you saying here? It's just like, just leave it at you're a dog trainer. Just leave it at that. I mean, period. Doesn't have to say you're anti-dog trainer. Well, no, you actually interacting with dogs, so you're training, people. You can call yourself whatever you want. You know, just keep it simple for people. But it's just like, it just doesn't make sense. That's all.
Now, what Dale means by that question, see, I can even tell you what he means by it. He's basically saying that if you motivate dogs with, say, treats or toys or play, and you're simply generating a response, how can that response be trusted when we are trying to figure out if the dog's perception of the owner or the person in question has in fact changed? The response is superficial in nature.
So the current state of the relationship, right? In fact, you go into a dog trainer to begin with, is the fact that you're experiencing a relationship problem. Okay, so all the behavioral issues, controls manifesting, how, I talk about stinking thinking, okay, everything becomes a supply source. You'll see that. Okay, you're experiencing a relationship problem. So that's the first thing. So I talk about it's not a learning-based exercise. So therefore, if you start to elicit or generate a response from a dog, like, how are you approaching a relationship problem? Like, what's your focus on? It's on responses that way. Okay, and very superficial. That's your focal point, right? And so coming to an understanding, right, through a proper audit, right, and insight into, and this is where you get into this thing about why is there a disconnect here with so many dogs that are moving around, responding, but then the relationship isn't actually getting better. That's the first thing. Right, just basic questions as to like why, something's going on here. There's depth, right? There's something deeper, something more meaningful happening, right? That's the first thing that people have to kind of get wise to say, okay, to lead you to the next thing, okay, to take that next step forward to say, okay, social, but what does that mean too? That's what I'm saying about someone like the anti-doctor. What does that mean as well? But here's the depth of the issue in terms of just at a response level. Is control itself based on the contract has already been signed. The relationship becomes its own motivator. The relationship becomes its own motivator, not in a good way. Okay, the dog's already gained control. So you don't have to have an overt motivator even by treats, just through association, through certain expectations that have been set in motion, do A, B, and C, get D. And so if that's your framework moving forward, okay, you're in trouble. Okay, understand that it all is problematic that way.
Right, if I hold a treat up and get my dog to sit, well, that doesn't say anything. It doesn't mean anything. It's superficial. And that I agree with Dale on that. Right? But what we're looking for is a diminishment of unwanted behaviors. But see, to me, that's only one criteria. For me.
So diminishment, you saying that's only one criteria. Now that's like, that's everything, basically. That's what relationship change. Perceptions changing. So I tie this into the perceptions changing, diminishment. Perceptions alter, they change. The issue about control being manifesting, being expressed, that diminishes. It's hand in hand. Okay, so when you have to align this properly, okay? And so, but the part of the interactions, I'm not focus on response. The dog may end up in a sit position through the interaction, but it's the interaction itself through the language of what's happening in the interplay of that interaction. That's my focal point. by way of those influence and control happening through that interaction, and with dog understanding intent. See, this is about the specific interactions. You get in when I get into this, the dog's level of disagreeableness or agreeableness to those. That's going to frame it up. Okay, that's going to provide information right away. This is why when I'm doing, say, the one-step method, you're slowing it down that way. Even movement itself becomes problematic. The faster you move, the more the dog's mind is reaching out, jumping ahead. And so you can get a dog that the walk looks better. But you slow it down and start to be more intentional with even how you're moving, you'll see the power play, you'll see the level of challenge rise up. So there's certain relationship dynamics that play into this process, into the interactions themselves that make a difference, that matter.
Me, because I've answered this question before, and when I answered it, I said, well, listen, I don't motivate dogs with toys, food, treats, play, right? It's all about the social interaction. And so
here he's tying in, pay attention there. So he's tying in, this is the first time I've watched this video too. So it's not like I've watched it and like, so he's saying the word social interaction. So what does that mean? Because again, I get the specifics of, okay, the interactions through the leash and through the owner with influence and control, how it ties in a very specific way to bring on a type of power play, okay? But to create certain associations as well, okay, towards people, other dogs, environment, okay. So those things all tie in together through how a dog is, that's thinking level. So everything connects through those interactions in a very specific way.
For instance, if somebody calls me and they have a particular issue with their dog, and all we need to do is introduce a higher level of structure, maybe there needs to be some boundaries where there weren't any.
So here, see, this is the important. So now he's skipping everything I said about, you know, how everything, the focal point of those core ingredients, how they're reconciled through those interactions. So he's just jumped over that. He's talking about boundaries now. Okay, so it's a different approach. Okay, they're not being reconciled. I mean, here's the key point. This is it right here. You know, he's just dismissing everything I'm saying. He's dismissing that whole piece of it, which is the critical piece. It's the piece of the puzzle that brings it all together. He's just jumped that right here in this conversation, right here. Pay attention to this.
The communication's a little off. Then all we need to do is implement those things. And are we seeing that over a period of time, the dog is...
See, now we've gone superficial again. I say it's just appearance again, right? Appearances again. We've gone, you know, I talk about specifics, I get into the nuts and bolts of it. That's the hard stuff. That's the stuff that you have to get dialed into. He's not dialed into that. So he just jumped that. But that's the criteria to know. So you talk about the question of the century, that is it. But he just skipped that. He's just skimmed right over it.
Is consistently following those rules, respecting the boundaries and those behavioral issues that I was...
See, respecting boundaries. So that's why someone like Murdoch, you see him, the difference, right? See it like getting a dog to wait for their food, to wait, not touch the dog, not interact with the dog, not bring those core ingredients together, wait, versus what I do, I'm over there doing the push-pull method, the one step. See, there it is. If you want to know the difference, well, there it is. He just said it right here. That's it. So we're going to stop here for this part one. We're going to continue this conversation here with part two. Thanks for watching.